Working parents, we're headed into another chaotic school year, and I have three little kids, and I run my own business. And before that, I was an executive on a very high demanding work environment in manufacturing. So just constant changing schedules. And I remember at the end of every day, during the school year, especially, just not even knowing what happened. Like, what happened today? It was just a flash. And that flash of a day turned into weeks, turned into months. And it's just this chaos that before you even get into work, you're done. Like your energy reserves are gone and you're over capacity. And in reflection, in my burnout recovery, I had to start to realize, what can I do in my days as a working parent to take back control of this chaos? Because it's going to be here. It's part of life right now. It's the season of life that I was in. But how could I do things differently in managing my energy so that I just wasn't completely spent at the end of the night, at the end of the week, and I could actually enjoy our time together? Because stress has been here, stress will always be, and the chaos of that season is my reality. So I found in reflection to that that there was 7 behavioral patterns that were going on that I, as a parent, was feeding this stress. And maybe you'll find yourself in one of these patterns or all of these patterns. And once you know the pattern that you're feeding the stress, you're making the chaos, it will help you begin to shift it back to energy, back to more intentional days. The first pattern is the most common. I'll just do it. It's faster, it's safer, you know it's going to get done. I had little kids, so a lot depended on me because they weren't independent yet. But I found that when I started to give them small tasks, that they were very competent and capable to do so. They're very capable of cleaning up their toys. Sometimes they just had too many toys. So when I found out the pattern of I'll just do it, I was very much micromanaging my own household, micromanaging every moment of the day. And even though we have 5 people in our household, there was one person doing a majority of the work. And the person driving that was me. So recognizing that pattern of I'll just do it because it's quicker, faster, you know it's going to get done, is actually causing your own stress, and it's making you way over responsible in your household and the other people in your household under responsible. The next pattern I want to talk about that was a little bit easier for us to navigate and shift this pattern, but I do see it a lot in my kids' friends and the families I see during kid pickup after school, is overscheduling. There is plenty for kids to be involved in these days. There's clubs, there's general activities like the arts, there's sports. Holy cows, there's sports. And then if you have multiple kids, you're running all over the place, kind of like a split and conquer. And we don't have many people available to us in our rural area, and we don't have any family around, so it's just us. So naturally, overscheduling just complicated everything through our week, because if one person had something on the schedule, we couldn't get the next kid to their activity on the schedule. So it got really complicated and chaotic in our nights and our weekends of who's driving who's picking up. And when you really backed up to what do our kids want to do, what are they excited about, it got really clear on what we should be scheduling. Because some of the sports we had them in, they weren't super interested in. They just wanted to play with their friends. Okay, well, let's just schedule a play date then. And that resolved itself. There were some birthday parties that we would get invited to multiple birthday parties in a weekend because we have 3 kids, and you don't have to go to all of them. Sometimes you, just because someone asks you doesn't mean that you have to do it. So when we got really clear on what do we want to run around for, what is important to our kids, this pattern was easy to shift, the overscheduling, because even though you're invited or they might be excited temporarily now, it doesn't mean you have to be involved in everything. And I just think back to my childhood as well, because we lived way out in the country, and then we had 2 working parents that had inflexible schedules. They didn't have flex work available then. And so we weren't involved in a lot unless we could find a ride, which means we didn't get involved in a lot of activities and sports. And it was fine. We had a fine childhood. And I think sometimes we have this parental guilt that pops up because we are having our kids miss out on opportunities. There's plenty of opportunities and there's plenty of things that they can get involved with in the future as well. So if you are in the chaos, really look at this pattern of overscheduling and who's the one who's really overscheduling, because kids just chase the fun. They don't need to be an elite athlete or be in 7 different clubs at once. One will do, or just spending time together at home. Overscheduling pattern, where does that need to shift? The third pattern I want to talk about is constant switching. So you go from home mode and chaos and talking to children in that context, and then you go switch over to office, adult conversations, professional conversations, and then after a long day there, you go back home and you have this complete like emotional and mental switch. And because of the constant switching and lack of recovery time in those transition moments, it just spills over. It spills over, it compounds. It spills over, it compounds. So when you get home at the end of the night, you just kind of like word vomit all over your family because it's just one thing after another thing after another thing, and you're switching. And I remember too, even getting daycare alerts on my phone. So I'd be at work, be in work mode, be in that adult professional, like cognitive mentality. And then I would be getting like kid texts and school texts. And 99% of them were not urgent or emergency or sick kid situations. It's just like updates. I don't need to be notified. I should have turned those notifications off and been in the mode that I'm in right now so that I could show up at the end of the night when I was with my kids. Certainly, you need to get contacted for emergency and sick kid situations, but that's not the notifications I'm talking about. I'm talking about the updates through the day. So that constant context switching is a super energy drainer. So where are you doing that throughout the day where you're like parent mode, work mode, parent mode, work mode, parent mode? And where can you start to eliminate those moments that don't need the switching so that you can be there when you do need to switch? The fourth pattern is that everything is urgent. Like we need to do it right now. There are certain schedule things that everything needs to happen right now, like getting out the door, get your shoes on, get the lunch in the bag, those type of things, right? Those are a timed, predictable type of urgency. But I'm talking about the something pops up and you need to do it right now. And then you get an email from maybe school or the activity or club that they're in, and you need to do it right now. You need to respond right now. And we have gotten into this culture, this societal culture of responding immediately. Like it used to be 24 hours or in a couple of days, and now you need to respond immediately, or you need to be in Facebook in that group and comment immediately, or you won't get the spot, or you won't get the information. And the more you can move out of that pattern, the more you can let your nervous system rest. Because right now, with this sense of urgency to reply instantly, you are keeping your nervous system on alert that every ping, pong, notification, text, um, alert you get on when you pop on social media causes your nervous system to activate into this alert mode that you need to respond immediately. And most things aren't an emergency. Most things you can give it time. And I know that this one is actually, it sounds easy. It is not, because in society, everything is urgent. Everything needs a response. So this one's going to be 100% on you to intentionally practice over and over and over again until those external forces are no longer controlling your urgency. And this one, I still find myself like, it's easier for me to just do it now than it's out of my head. But guess what? That urgency has a way of refilling itself and refilling itself, and it's refilling itself. So I end up at the end of the day doing 14 things instead of 2, because I did it right now, I did it right now, I did it right now. And sometimes those things just take care of themselves. So what is urgent and important that you do need to respond to, and what isn't? And getting really good about that practice, it's going to get your nervous system to chill out a little bit. Pattern number 5, the invisible mental load. I'm talking about what's for dinner tonight. What do I need on the grocery list to get dinner out tonight? Do I have laundry to do? Do we have the things packed for sports? What are we doing this weekend? I need to go get a birthday gift for that. Oh, I also need that report for work I need to work on tonight after they go to bed. It's just like this long list, to-do list in your head at any given time. And the best way to get rid of this invisible mental load is to make it visible. That's why journaling is so important in self-care, is because it gets all those bouncing thoughts in your head out on paper. And that is an emotional regulation practice, to take something that is stewing and verbally put it into a format that your brain can understand. And sometimes just that can release that ping pong chaos in your head, that can release the stress. So if you have a lot on your mind of like, I have to do this, I have to do this, just make a list. And I know that people can get like crazy about their list, but if you have like 15 things going on in your head that you have to do this tonight or this weekend, just start listing them. Maybe it's home, maybe it's work, like a 2 column, but organize it in a manner that your brain's like, oh, actually that's not as much. In my mind, it seems like, oh my gosh, I'm going to spend all weekend doing this, but oh, I put it down on paper. It's only 5 things. We're good. So taking that invisible mental load and making it visible is going to start to interrupt the pattern, because when it stays invisible, it begins to create not only your own chaos in your head, but it like increases into this monstrous of a task when it's just dinner. It's just grocery shopping. You have to do it. It's a regular type of activity. But when it stays in your head, it becomes this big mental monster. So making those invisible mental loads visible, and then also with that visibility, you can begin to delegate it out who could do the task. Brings me to pattern number 6. Perfect routine. As a parent, I thought that things should go a certain way. I would see other people and I felt like they had it together. Man, social media and the aesthetic videos have completely ruined what you see out there, and they make life look very put together. It is not, because when you're dealing with children, when you're dealing with kids, you're dealing with other people. And after 2 decades in human resources and having 3 kids of my own, let me tell you, you cannot control others. Don't try. It's exhausting and a waste of energy. So, one thing you can do about interrupting this pattern of a perfect routine is understand that you have other people in your life that you can't control. So, be okay with adapting. What is the end goal? The end goal is I need to get out in the morning by 7:30 so I can get the kids to school and I can get to work. Okay, that's the outcome. How we get there can go a bunch of different routes. Where can they participate? Where do I need to participate? Where's the warning sign that we are running a little late? I have all these little things in mind versus I'm going to do this in the morning and this and this and this and this, and then we're going to pop out all together happy and go lucky at 7:30. Right? Because we all know that's going to get derailed by the first tantrum that happens, the shoes they don't want to wear, the lunch that they don't want to have that they saw in their lunch pack. All different things can go wrong. So the more that you can create adaptability in your routine actually is better, because one, you're not going to get disappointed, but two, you're not adding stress that was never there. The goal is to get out the door by 7:30. Do we do that most days? Yes. Is there multiple ways we do that? Yes. Is every day the same? Absolutely not, because people are unpredictable. So the more you can get good at adapting in your routine, hitting that same outcome mark that you want is going to interrupt that stress pattern of a perfect routine. Now, the last but definitely not least pattern that's usually running, feeding our own working parent stress, is pattern number 7, which is recovery is optional. I'll rest on the weekend. What kind of weekends are you having? Because my weekends, kids are still there. My weekends are laundry and food prep and probably birthday parties and other activities that we have to run to, family gatherings. We're not sitting at the spa on Sundays. So when I broke the pattern that recovery was optional, when I had time, when we go on vacation in 6 months, that's how I got into burnout. Is I'll recover when? I'll recover when? And I found in my season of life as a working parent with little kids that I would be burnt out by the time I got there. And I was burnt out by the time I got to those moments. So instead of recovery was optional, I made recovery sustainable by integrating it into my lifestyle, which means micro recovery moments. I don't have a full day or a full weekend to get away, but I do have micro moments throughout my day, throughout my night to recover, to have some mom time. And if you are breaking those other patterns of 1 through 6, you will gain that self-care time. If you are running all those patterns 1 through 6, you probably won't get that recovery time because you're micromanaging your household, because you're overscheduling, because you're looking for the perfect routines, those type of things. So do you see where every pattern's kind of feeding one another in our stress? So recovery is optional, is not really an option, because there's always something to do. There's always something that will fill that space. We're in an ever demanding world, and when we come to the reality of that, you can begin to break that pattern into how can you recover in the season of life that you're in. So am I going to take a long bath right now? Not really. Can I read a book at the end of the night? Yes, because my kids are also reading books and they're mimicking the behavior that they're seeing. So they actually started reading more books and it became like our thing at the end of the night. Not a perfect routine, but guess what? I'm getting some silence, I'm getting some mean time, and they're also mimicking that behavior. So we're not going to battle the stress that is happening in our working parent life. Stress will be here. It's our season of life that we're in. What we're going to do is interrupt one of the 7 patterns that is causing our own stress. Because every pattern either feeds the energy or it drains it.